Yes, yes, yes. It is the Cashworthy podcast, and we are back. Two thirds of us. Myself, I am Big Steve, aka hello. My name's Steve on the Insta machine, joined by VP, and we're waiting on the timely arrival of EJ, who will be here, likely be on some bullshit. Um, So we're gonna get all the serious and fun stuff out of the way right now. It is May the 4th be with you. It is May 4th, Sunday, May 4th. Tomorrow, Cinco de Mayo. Break out the sombreros for the American-made holiday. Drink some tequila. What you up to, VP? How was your week? All right. Good talk.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Cut out. Sorry.
Oh, I said, what you been up to?
Nothing, man. Just work. I've been busy as hell at work, man. My my manager had a death in the family, so he ended up being out like unexpectedly. And on our team, the way our team is broken up, like me and him work on like very specific things, and then there's other people on our team that he works with on very specific things that they do, and we don't really kind of there's no cross contamination or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? So
Cross training.
Yeah. So like when he's out, it's like by him being out, like everything that we work on is all on me now. But there's parts of what we do where it's like stuff that he handles, and then there's certain parts of it that he delegates to me. And now it's like all on me, and some of it I'm kind of like figuring it out. You know what I'm saying? So like a sink or swim kind of thing. So yeah, that's been interesting. But yeah, so doing that, and then just on the personal side, man, we just been chilling, watching our shows and stuff. Survivor came, but we didn't even know Survivor came back, so we're like 10 episodes behind. So
Oh, you're excited about that? You get the binge.
Yeah. So
I thought I was gonna be able to binge some stuff this weekend or today, because it was raining. It was gray and gloomy this morning. I was like, finally, my grass was dancing because it needed water. So happy, and now here comes that dry ass sun to mess up the day. Can't even be lazy. But yeah, I mean, same thing for me, man. Work, chilling. Nothing too crazy. Slow week for the most part. Watching a lot of the NBA playoffs. I think I watched more this week than last week, probably because it was more entertaining, because we got the game 7 and some elimination games. Actually, most of the elimination games happened this week, and so that's what I've been up to. Watching some shows. We'll get to that in bingeables also, but from I guess we could start with the NBA. Anything stick out to you? Well, let's start with the Lakers. Lakers and Minnesota.
Timberwolves.
Yeah, Lakers and Minnesota. Ant-Man and the team. I think everybody going into this, not everybody, a lot of people going into this series forgot that LeBron James is 40 years old. You know what I mean? And they also forgot that Luka, as great as he is on offense, is still a defensive liability. Still, this relationship is still fresh. And from a depth standpoint, they don't have it. And they have a rookie coach, like a guy who's never coached before, not like rookie to the NBA, like a guy who's never coached before, who went from player to podcaster. Well, ESPN, spokesman for a little bit, then podcaster to coach.
Yeah.
Avid 3-point shooter in JJ Redick, young kid, really good in college, but the light seemed bright. There was some decision making, in my opinion, in this in this series where, you know, 2 straight games he played the same 5 guys without sitting them. Dorian Finney-Smith, right? Your tallest guy on the court when you got Rudy Gobert on one side and you're
Mm-hmm.
playing as LeBron James at 6'9". That just doesn't make sense, right? And you're
Yeah.
playing a Dorian Finney-Smith who's old. You got Luca, who's an offensive person but a defensive liability. Like said, LeBron's 40 years old. I forget the white kid's name, but he couldn't get it done. I don't know why it's escaping me, but it was just all around. It seemed like, at one point the Lakers won their first game. I think it was down. They were down 2-1, and people were kind of doing that. Lakers in 5, Lakers in 6, Lakers in 7.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they got comfortable. Minnesota came out and did their thing, and I just feel like the Lakers panicked watching that series. What's your take on that?
Nah, I agree with pretty much everything you said, man. I think like the start of it kind of goes back to a conversation we had at the time when it happened, when news of it was out there, and then when it actually happened, which is the hiring of JJ Redick. And now you're kind of seeing that consequence of hiring a rookie coach. And not just that he's a rookie coach, like a coach with no experience, right? Because as much as crap as you and EJ give like Eric Spoelstra, like at least Spoelstra was an assistant on Pat Riley's staff for like 12 years before he ever became the head coach. You know what I'm saying? And JJ, like I love the way that you illustrated his path, NBA player to talking head on ESPN to podcaster to head coach of the Lakers, and and now he's out there, he's coaching these guys almost like you and I would play, 2K on Xbox or PlayStation, where it's like, no, I'm not rotating. I'm gonna the game is doing the auto subs. You go in the menu and turn off auto sub, and then
turn
put those same
fatigue
guys
off.
Right. And I mean that is insane. And then like to your point about acting like LeBron is not 40, and as a compliment to him, it's crazy that he's playing at the level that he's playing at age 40, still averaging how many points. But it's like people see that and forget he's 40. You know what I'm saying? And we say it all the time, like, Father Time's undefeated, and so it's a long season. And then you get into these series that go deep or whatever, and it's gonna take its toll. And even if the Lakers pulled it out, we found out LeBron had an MCL. I don't know if it was a sprain or tear, but regardless, he wasn't going to be playing. So, it was crazy, man. It was crazy. The fact that they pulled off the Luka trade, kudos to them. Nobody saw that coming. I think it was a great move for them. But then not replacing AD with some kind of size in the middle showed his head right here in the first series of the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah, and then you don't even play the guys that have a little bit of size, like Jackson Hayes. Dude is sitting on the bench like, yo, I'm 6'11". You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm 6'11". Rudy Gobert goes for 28 and 24 in the closeout game, right? And halfway through the game, this guy is on track looking like Shaq. And you don't think now is the time to maybe put somebody with some size, even if you put someone in there just to foul. Yeah. Put some big dudes in there. Rudy Gobert goes up for the rebound, foul him, and don't let him get it. Make him shoot free throws. He's not a great free throw shooter. You know what I mean? He's a big man in general, right? So get in there, man. And then on defensive end, or on the offensive end, rather, make him play a little bit of defense because he's so long, that no matter who he's defending, if they go into a zone, if they come into the paint, now you got a hard shot. You got a tough shot. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was just Austin Reeves. That's what I was thinking about. Austin Reeves kind of disappeared a lot this series. It was just it was not a great coached series. And the team looked like what we talked about with LeBron in those first few years with the Cavaliers outside of Luca being there. But what I mean
Yeah.
is like people were standing around like, all right, give the ball and let and wait, right? There was
Hmm.
not a lot of motion. There wasn't a lot of guys that were able to create their own shot, right? They would set up in the half court. Lucas shoots a 3-pointer from, 5 feet behind the 3-point line, before anybody even, rotated or moved. It was just, they looked bad, man. And we kind of thought that it was going to be, I thought it would be a better first round for them. And I
Yeah.
do think that it'll be, like you said, it was a great move for them to set up their future a bit, getting Luca in there. JJ came out afterwards and said there were some people in basketball shape and there were some people that needed to get into shape. And so hopefully, right, that's a conversation in the offseason to be had to say, hey, we need you to be at least mobile, And then that's
Yeah.
the other thing. Luca ended up, first of all, he's not mobile as is. Then he doesn't play a lot of defense, and then he gets hurt. He fucks his back up in that game, and now so you got just so many points of failure. So it's unfortunate because I would have liked to. I like watching the Laker games. It's something about those games, playoff games. Maybe it's just the stars that come out.
Yeah.
It's nostalgic to watch, the Lakers court in playoff time and stuff. So, but you talked about LeBron. He had they said the grade 2 MCL sprain. We're talking about him at 40. Like, do you think LeBron's back next year? Like,
It's tough because I like at this point, he has essentially said, and he used different words, but he doesn't know yet. He's taking it year by year, basically.
mhm,
I imagine that he still thinks that he can play at a high level once he gets healthy, and maybe his hope is that like Bronny has like a jump in execution or whatever in his game, and then he can play with Bronny. I mean, obviously, a second year player is not going to be peak Bronny, you know what I mean? But like maybe he is playing at a higher level, and then it's like, damn, and not only did I get to play with my kid, but I got to play with him when he was kind of on his ascendance.
right.
So like I think that kind of stuff favors him coming back, the feeling of unfinished business and things like that. But then also on the other side, on the other side, Bron and Kobe were very, very close, and something that we saw with Kobe at the end was all of these injuries. It seemed like year after year after year, something was happening to him on the injury front. And when you look at a guy like LeBron, since he's gone to the Lakers, almost every season he's dealt with an injury. He had the groin that one year, he had the ankle another year. This year it's an MCL, and it's just like I said earlier, and like we always say on the pod, Father Time is undefeated. You know what I mean? And the older you get, the easier it is for you to get injured, the longer it takes for you to heal, and things like that. And so, I think those kind of things lean itself towards retirement, but maybe that kind of pull of the unfinished business, as well as maybe Bronny steps up his game in year 2 and he can play with Bronny at a higher level. Maybe that's enough to pull him back one more year, but I don't think he plays more than one more year if he decides to come back.
Yeah, injuries are contagious, and they put him with AD. So he been getting hurt ever since he started to see or started to play with AD. It just hasn't gotten better. Hopefully, shout out to him. I hope he do get at least one more season. Like I've been on record to say for the last year or so or more that we're just gonna watch this guy, his career end in front of our eyes. And because everybody is still kind of doing the LeBron Jordan thing, like even at the end of this, people are talking about, oh, he got, eliminated in another first round, and he's 40 years old. You know what I mean? Like he's had
Yeah,
an amazing career. I think the comparisons shouldn't be the focus right now because his career is winding down and there's going to come a season, right? Whether it's next or the one after, where we're not going to see a LeBron James. And when
right.
that tip off happens and it's, opening night and there's no LeBron, then what, right? And people are going to be struggling to find someone. Anthony Edwards hopefully matures some. The kid is just so immature. Otherwise, he'd be a perfect face for the league just because, he's great. Like the kid is
Yeah,
really, really good. I like watching him. I like that he's super confident. He talks that shit. Like you saw the video that came out. I don't know if you guys saw where he was talking to Obama. I think it was at the Olympics. It was him,
Yeah,
Obama, and LeBron, and he just talking to him like a regular old dude. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I
Not
saw
like,
that.
oh, Mr. President. Nah. He's like, nah. I told you, I'm nice. you know.
Yeah,
So I like him in that sense as a basketball player, and I would like him in the face. I wish he was a better father. In the sense of not wanting to not keep these kids. It's like two now that he's like, nah, I don't want no part of their lives. But that doesn't change the fact that he's a great basketball player, man. And
yeah,
I hope we get at least one more season of LeBron. I think because I do feel confident that maybe next year is his last year, I'm probably going to go ahead and get some Orlando Magic season tickets this season. The Magic are now making their way back into the playoffs. I'd like to make some money off of, the LeBron games that he comes here, maybe even get a chance to see him. So it might be on my things to do. But
and
as we,
what also? Oh, sorry.
I was just going to welcome EJ to the pod. Um, from somewhere remote, and that's it. So go ahead, VP. Tell us what you was gonna say. I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut
Yeah,
you off.
I was gonna say on the LeBron thing, if he comes back next year, and this is something that again with having going back to the JJ Redick conversation with him being a rookie, inexperienced head coach with not enough, gravitas behind, the things that he says or wants to implement or whatever. If LeBron comes back, this offseason would be the time where Coach JJ Redick goes to LeBron and says, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but you're 41 and you're still playing at a high level. How you come off the bench now?" And that way you save LeBron for the playoffs. You know what I mean? Maybe he can start in the playoffs, but in the regular season, you rotate him off the bench. I mean, he's not playing like bench player minutes. You know what I mean? We have guys who are like the six man who played like starter minutes. You know what I'm saying? But just that little bit helps save his body. Save his legs for the playoffs if you make it. And then that way you don't got to worry about game 3 of series 1, LeBron being out of gas. Because if you think about it, right, the way the NBA playoffs are structured, that first series goes in this, game 1, 2 days later, game 2, 2 days later, game 3. Then they take like 3 or 4 days off game 4. And then it's every like other night or whatever. And then when you get to the second round, the whole series from that point forward until the finals is every other night. And then when you get to finals, they go back to that round 1 format where they take the bigger breaks to give the guys a chance to recover so we can see good basketball. And that doesn't lend itself, that doesn't favor a guy who's going to be 41. You know what I'm saying? And so JJ Redick as the coach, if like imagine a guy like Pop going to a LeBron saying, "Hey, this ain't to say you not good. This isn't to say, we don't appreciate what you've done, or we're trying to shit on your legacy or something like that. But I need you in the playoffs. So I'm gonna start having you come off the bench. I'm gonna start putting you in a rotation on the bench as a 6th, 7th man. So that way we save your legs. And then in the playoffs, we put you back in the starting lineup. And then, we let you kill it or whatever. So that way you can be peak LeBron in the playoffs. If Pop says that, if a coach likes, well, I don't even want to say Spo, because I don't think LeBron and Spo had a good relationship. But I'm just saying a coach that has done something in his league that has the respect of the players could tell LeBron that. But I don't know if a rookie coach who was a podcaster and now a head coach can do that.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know if I'm putting LeBron on the bench, but I would maybe limit the hell out of his minutes. And maybe there's games where where he sits or whatever, right? But like putting him on the bench that's a little bit of a stretch. We're talking about a top 2 to 3 guy and on everybody's list. There's no, I mean, realistic people, right, that are not truly hating on the guy. If he's not on your top 2 to 3, you're a hater, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Whether you call him 1, 2, or 3. Um, Beyond that, to me, is a hater. I don't know that you put him to the bench, but I do see maybe you put him as a starter. maybe he only plays 5 minutes in the first quarter every game or something like that. And maybe, you trickle in second and third quarters minutes. And then if you need him down the stretch in the fourth, you give him some minutes there, but limit him to 20 minutes a game or something like that until the playoffs. Maybe that's your best bet. But also, if I'm LeBron, I think I'm trying to get 2 more seasons out. I'm trying to get next season. I'm hoping Bryce goes over to Arizona, plays well enough, to then come out the following year and then see, how I can pull some strings to get it all together and have the three James boys somewhere in the same spot. And I think he's got the power to do that. We're living in a world where nepotism lives, uh, is a living and breathing thing. And so why any different for LeBron than for Donald Trump or Hunter Biden or any of those guys? I'd love to see it. I would love to see
I kind of understand what you're saying in a sense. I mean, know my level of security, but you know how to do something, either get him some help or manage the load. And I mean, Cole, they started to do that with Cole as time wound down, but he also had another top three guys that he would go to with Paul Gasol. You know what I'm saying? So if you can get him somebody like that, offset a lot of the workload that he can defer to, that'd be great. But like you said, we've been saying for the last 2 years, we kind of preparing for his last run because once he's gone, as much as you want to love him or hate him, his league, like you saw, is going to look different. He's going to take the mantle. Any time, Anthony Edwards could be. I personally would love to see it be Jalen Brunson. He's like a little on the older side, and a lot less, a lot more boring. I would love that as a Knicks fan, but yeah, we got to preserve this guy as much as we can because the league after him is looking pretty scary.
Yeah, the weird thing about Jalen Brunson is I just don't think people actually respect his talent. Like I don't think people have him in tier one. I think some people don't even have him in tier two as players because you really only hear enough about him at playoff time. Throughout the rest of the year, it's fairly quiet. And I'm not saying that that's warranted. I don't think it should be that way because I've watched some Jalen Brunson. I watch a lot of Jalen Brunson because the Knicks games are always on here because we're on the East Coast. And I do a lot of fantasy, daily fantasy, and stuff like that. So I know his stat line. That's why when he came from Dallas, I told y'all the boy was nice. And EJ was like, it's a lot of money. I'm like, yo, the boy is nice. But the face, I think there's people that I don't know if Jalen Brunson is going to sell jerseys, what I mean, outside of New York. I think you got, unless they win, right? If you guys find a way to win, that's a different story. But if not, I think they got to lean on Tatum. They got to try to make that guy, he's the clean cut, you know, he brings his son to the games, he's got that whole Steph Curry where Steph Curry used to bring his daughters, he's got no scandals at all. He's nice. So, I mean, outside of the fact that he's a cornball and everybody says he really wants to
Both, both of them have no personality. That's the problem. Both of them got zero personality.
That's exactly.
Both
That's
boring as shit.
exactly. Yeah. You're not going to see, even in like post games, they're just like, yeah. So,
I think
but
that to the point that you're making, Steve, the best analogy I've seen of this thing is like your boy Nick Wright. He has this thing that he does that's called Club Superstar, and it's like the guys who are like in line, like waiting to get in the club, and then you got like another door showing like some guys being kicked out, and then you see the guys who are just like in the club, right? And so I would put Jalen Brunson like he's in Club Superstar, but then they have the next tier, which is like the VIP of the club or whatever. And
right.
so like I would say Brunson is in the club. He's not waiting in line, but he's not in the VIP section.
Yeah.
If Josh Hart is better overall, like player, superstar level, he could probably do it because he got a personality. But to both
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson has no personality.
I think Brunson can get that, get to that level if you guys win. I think people respect it a lot more, especially if you guys, fight through the Celtics, which is your next opponent. That series starts tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about that, but before we get to that, we got game 7 today. We had game 7 last night. Denver just beat up on the Clippers. I don't want to glaze past that. James Harden once again, game 7, no show, no call, no show. What he had, 7 points?
Yep. You see the
Yeah.
thing I posted in the chat, that video
I'm look-
that video that always resurfaced from that dude who went crazy on Harden. They put the ether beat behind it.
Mm-mm. I
Yeah,
didn't watch it.
but
I posted it. I linked it in the chat. I'll link to it again. Go ahead,
how
EJ.
many did Kawhi have last night though?
Good question. I got it up. Let me.
'Cause I feel like none of them did anything.
Yeah, the Clippers just look pretty bad last night. Kawhi actually late in the game wasn't even playing. Kawhi went for 22, 5 and 5. So he had 22 points, 5 boards. James Harden had 7 points, but he had 13 assists, 5 boards, 2 assists. He filled up the stat line. 13 assists, 5 boards, 2 steals, but I mean, it's no different, right? Anytime we've seen LeBron lose and he's been the facilitator, we've said you're not a closer, you're not a killer, so it can't be any different for James Harden.
Mhm.
Zubac had 14 boards, 10 points. Yeah, it was just it was a lackluster performance from that whole Clippers team yesterday. They had Kobe Brown who came off the bench and put up 13, and he was the second highest scorer behind Kawhi Leonard. But you can't have that when you have a Zubac, a Norman Powell, a James Harden. You know what I mean? You can't. That just can't be what happens against you know the Nuggets, right? Regardless of how good or bad you feel like their season has been, the fact that they fired their coach, says more than what the season really was because they came in as the 4 seed. They're still, reigning champions until they're not,
Yeah,
right?
And I think for Harden, I'm gonna shoot him bail in the sense,
I
just a
sent it
little
to you,
bit, in
Steve.
the sense, just a little bit in the sense that he came up, stepped up game 6, led the team to scoring. This is a guy that we thought, for all intents and purposes, he was done. What I'm saying? He had a quiet season. And he was kind of carrying them. When Kawhi wasn't playing, there was nobody out there. He kind of did stay. Again, he didn't show up in game 7. That's where the money was made. That's where legends are made. I get it. Um, but I just think that's another failed project, right? Just like Philly, just like Phoenix. I mean, we're seeing, and we kind of kick LeBron back into this. You front load these teams, you don't coach them well, and then when one guy's off, the whole shit implodes.
But what I would argue, EJ, is the difference is right with LeBron, they won, right? They front loaded a Miami team, went to multiple championships, won 2. Front loaded a
Yeah,
Cleveland team, won 1. Went to 8 straight finals. Uh, um, um, Over while in Cleveland and won 1, right? In 2 in Miami and 1 in Cleveland. Went to the finals again with the Lakers. Harden is engineering himself into all these different super teams and nothing's happening. You know what I mean? And so I
oh,
think that's why he gets so much smoke is
I
because
think I think to your point, the difference is that LeBron's influence, to which we give him credit for, is that he has that insight to where even though the first year is rocky, whatever you want to say about him, he knows how to put guys around himself and what he can do to then elevate that team and be like, yo, I just need you to do this. I just need the Norris Cole to kick in. I just need this, I need that. And I think Harden, because he's so much of a mercenary, he doesn't orchestrate it well. And it's LeBron. LeBron is a top tier athlete, one of the top 3, number 1, number 2 all time in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? So I think I agree with you. I think in orchestrating
got
these
you.
things, it's not being built to for the marathon. It's built for that sprint. You know what I mean? But I agree with you. And we've
Got you.
always given LeBron credit for being that GM. You know what I mean? The first year might be rocky, but yo, he gets those guys that when he feeds them the rock, and we give him slack. Yo, why are you kicking it to Norris Cole in the corner? Because I count on this guy to knock it down. Who the Clippers got to do that?
Yeah. I think James Harden thinks he's better than he is. You know what I mean? Like James Harden has had a pretty good career as well. James Harden reminds me of Chris Bosh, right? And that's not a slight to Chris Bosh. I'm not trying to shoot at Miami or anything, but Chris Bosh, when he was in Toronto, people thought he was, you know, Shaq, or people thought
Yeah.
he was Kobe. You know what I mean? Because he was the only option. And I think James Harden similarly has had that kind of success in Houston. And anytime you surround him with other talent, it just doesn't work. And I think that's what the video you're talking about, VP, where they said they brought in Westbrook and that didn't work. They brought in Dwight Howard, that didn't work. Now he's over here with the Clippers. He's with Kawhi. Sure, Kawhi's been hurt for so long, but now this year Kawhi's been back and shown that he's a better player. It didn't work. Like Philly, we don't want to talk about that stint. Like James Harden just is not what people want you to think he is, right? I hear people all the time compare him to some of the names that he just shouldn't be compared to. I mean, if he gets into the Hall of Fame, at least first ballot, it's definitely going to be on, strict numbers. But when I talk about Bosh and when I compare him to Bosh, I'm saying he's just the option. Bradley Beal, similarly, right? Bradley Beal in Washington, people are like, yo, this is the guy, the only guy in the league at one point that had a no trade clause and goes to Phoenix and that fails. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're the only person, volume is going to turn into numbers. And I think that's what happens with James Harden. The guy just has no clutch gene, yo. He's got no clutch gene.
And I think Harden also gets a lot of smoke for. We talked about this. I don't know if it was last week or the week before on Pod when I brought up the point that, when some of these guys who are stars get bounced from the playoffs, Giannis just got bounced. You don't hear people saying, "Oh, yeah, here we go again. Giannis lost. This guy's trash," and boo boo, because Giannis has won already. And so, yeah, people want to see him win again because he's that good. But because he got one already, it basically holds back the smoke. LeBron gets smoke for a different reason because, unlike Giannis, LeBron is in a debate on who is the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? And so, because he's also basically a made man, but he's in a different kind of conversation. So when he gets bounced from the playoffs, guy who's the face of the league, guy who's in the GOAT conversation, et cetera, et cetera. So the smoke is still there regardless of the championships. You know what I'm saying? Steph Curry don't get that kind of smoke when he gets bounced because he has the championships. You know what I mean? But Harden doesn't have that. And because Harden doesn't have that, it's very easy to criticize him when he doesn't win. Because Harden to your team, Harden is like the player version of Doc Rivers. He shows up, you ain't winning. So
to pipe this into the Clippers locker room. If I can talk to you, James, I hope you're taking notes. I'm telling you in advance, you're welcome for the wisdom I'm about to spew. Because listen, I get on my knees every night and pray for someone to believe in me, like Daryl Boring.
This is just absolutely wild.
You want a certain coach, they brought in Mike D'Antoni. You want to play,
and sometimes you need this.
You wanted Dwight Howard, they brought him in and got rid of him when you were tired of him.
And this is from like 2 years ago.
They brought him in and got rid of him when you were tired of him. They brought in your old friend Russell Westbrook. You want to go to Vegas on off days? They looked away. You wanted the team to stay over so you could go out at night. They changed the schedule, and it didn't work. And you know what? You said,
that's enough of that. I'm sure it goes on for about another minute and a half. But,
yeah.
but sometimes that's the hard message that people have to deliver. And James Harden probably at this point in his career, he needs to go ring chasing. He needs to, and it hasn't worked, right? Philly, the Clippers. He needs to go ring chase somewhere like Golden State. And I don't even know that that's going to be a ring chase place anymore because those guys are getting old. Maybe he needs to go to a Detroit who looks young and can probably just use a good veteran. Or, I mean, I know you would hate to see him in Miami, right? But if he can go to Miami and Pat can bring in him and Giannis, right? Get him for the cheap and maybe trade out and pick up Giannis, pair him with Hero and still keep Bam in some way. Like, I think that does something, but that's the type of thing that I think Harden has to do today. Otherwise, it's just not. I don't know. I don't see him getting a ring.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough, man, too, because like you see, like the stuff that he did in Houston, where he gained all the weight, and then he got to Brooklyn, he got hurt, and Philly. I give him crap for Philly just because like it's like an overall thing, like 100 bridges kind of situation. But when he gets to
Yeah.
Philly, you're playing with a guy in Embiid who
Wait, tell
can't
me
stay
about
healthy.
the 100 bridges. What does that mean? What's that saying?
But you get with a guy like Embiid who can't stay healthy, and then Maxi's up and coming, but then now Maxi has to kind of pull back a little bit just so that way you can shine. I don't think the Philly thing was a good situation for him, but yeah, man, Harden, he definitely got the ring chase, like I mean Westbrook essentially, and Westbrook to me don't really even seem like a ring chase. It seems like Westbrook just still wants the ball, and he just can't find a permanent home, so it just keeps being
I think,
shifted
I think,
around.
I think he's good in Denver. I think it's in the perfect spot, not being killed for that. But I think when he's on and he's making the right plays, he gives them a good spark. He's like, oh, he don't want to come off the bench. He comes off the bench. And he does what he does. But I think to your point, he summed it up perfectly. He said Harden is Doc Rivers. And speaking of Doc Rivers, another exit person in the team. I mean, this guy. What does he does is Boston.
Yeah.
So today's game 7, we have the Warriors and the Rockets. That's not till tonight. We get a game 1 for the Cavs and Pacers at 6. Oh, there's only 2 games today. Okay, so we get a 6 o'clock game and then an 8:30 game. Rockets Warriors. You guys think? I mean, Steph has had. They're talking about the thumb injury and stuff like that for him. You guys think that they're able to get it done tonight? Do we see playoff Jimmy tonight?
They look tired last game. They look like they ain't have no juice, and I'm wondering how much they'll have in the tank tonight, man. Like it's been said multiple times today. Father Time undefeated, and I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that they might get bounced tonight.
There is two questions. Is Jimmy playing? One. And then two, okay, Jimmy's playing. They were the team that was up 3-1, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for them to lose, they would have to literally make a history, right? To be the first team to be a 3-1 and lose.
No, it's not the first team.
Okay.
It's
No,
happened before, but it's a very small number.
yeah, 3-1 is not often. 3-0 is the one that's never happened.
Right.
I'll tell you what. I would
think 3-1 has only happened like 8, maybe 10 times. It's very limited, but it's happened.
Last one was LeBron. I want to say when they won the chip.
Yeah. The Cleveland Warriors.
Golden State. Yeah.
I would love to see Ime, advance. I want Ime Udoka as a coach, and I don't like the good team. But you never know. You never know. I think Jimmy's gonna make a difference.
Golden State has to win this game, yo. There ain't no way they're gonna lose to these kids. Houston, I think we're seeing how good of a coach Udoka is. We're seeing that the Celtics, right? Udoka to the Celtics is Mark Jackson to the Warriors. Right? We're seeing that right now because this Houston team looked like trash before. Last year, I won't say trash. They didn't look this good last year, the year before. They've got some guys that have come in. They brought in Van Fleet that looks pretty good. Şengün is a monster, at center. Jalen Green. Imagine if what I was saying is imagine if what's the kid's name that they traded away because he beat up his girl? That plays for Milwaukee now. Kevin Porter. If Kevin Porter would have still been there, this team would have been something completely different, with this coach. But Golden State I mean, if they lose tonight, it's telling. I think that it might be an end of an era at that point. Losing Clay is showing that there was something there, right? Because he could have been a difference maker right now. I don't know that you still keep Clay and Jimmy. I don't know if that ends up happening, if that's the case, but they also don't have any size, and that's where they're losing. Şengün is averaging 20 and 11, and when you're giving up that many boards and you're not hitting your threes, it's a long night. It's a long night. But I do think Golden State figures a way. I think we're going to see a major show by Draymond Green tonight. We are going to see a Draymond Green show tonight, probably like no other. He might get tossed tonight. He might either get tossed or he might get into a fight with somebody. And I think, right, when you got Draymond Green,
we need somebody. It's gonna be Devin Booker.
I
Or
was
not Devin. Is his name Devin or Dylan? Whatever, Booker. You know what I'm talking about.
Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, there you go.
I was gonna say when you got
we know who it's gonna be.
You got Draymond on one side and Brooks on the other side. This and a game 7. This is gonna be must see TV, dog.
Yeah,
like I cannot miss this game. I will not miss this game.
They might have to have Adam Silver on speed dial for commissions for suspensions.
Yeah, let's just get him out. Why don't we just him out before the game starts?
Right.
It's about to be crazy. I'm excited to watch that game. Where do you guys think Giannis is gonna land next year?
I mean, obviously, I'm biased. I want him in Miami. The word from the Miami Herald reporters is that Pat's gonna make a play, but it would not shock me if Giannis ended up in Houston. It would not shock me. So I think Houston with a coach like Udoka would be a really, really good landing spot. I'm hoping that Miami, puts together some kind of package. I'm pretty sure the package will. If I had to choose, it's going to be either Bam or Hero that will have to go in that package. I would rather give up Hero than Bam and have 2 bigs. But I don't even know if we have the assets in terms of picks. Obviously, we can put together a group of players, but picks wise, I don't know if we have the assets. But I think Houston could be a spot as well.
I'm gonna say this. I would love for him to be in New York. I don't know how I feel like this. But we gave up 5 first-round picks from the Cal Bridges. So,
Yo, that's wild.
I thought that was way too much, way too rich. And I'm not a fan of him. I wasn't a fan of him before. But I say that to say the asking price, to be honest, that was what you got from the cap.
Yeah. The one good thing I think that'll help any team that is going after Giannis will be the fact that Milwaukee isn't going to want to do bad by Giannis. So I'm pretty sure they're going to ask him, where do you want to go? Like kind of like with Dame in Portland. Where do you want to go? He'll probably give them a list, and then they'll see what's going to be the best deal. And maybe just like with Dame wanted to go to Miami. It wasn't working out, and then they end up getting a deal to Milwaukee where he still got to go to a good team, but it just wasn't where he wanted to go. So I think we might see a situation like that where I'm saying Miami, Houston. EJ is saying he likes the Knicks. I don't know who you like yet, Steve. And then maybe there's some contender for Giannis that's yet to emerge. And then when it happens, it's like, oh, wow, never saw that coming, but it works.
Yeah, so I think, right, if I'm Milwaukee, I want to do well by him, but I also don't want him in my division. And otherwise, I would say Detroit is a great spot for him. Nice young team. He gets over there with Cade Cunningham. They got Thompson or Thomas, whatever his name is. I like that kid. He's going to be good. That would be a great landing spot, but I don't see them doing that, right? Because it's interdivisional. That just doesn't make any sense if I'm them. I would like to see him, like, there's a couple of spots I think work out, right? If he's looking for a chip, right? He's looking to build a super team, then Charlotte doesn't work, but I do like him in Charlotte with LaMelo. And they got some picks and stuff like that. I like him in Orlando. I'm an Orlando fan. And I just feel like they're young enough, and adding him to that team, if they don't lose, they're big, they're 2, then I think that there's some noise to be made there for that team. But the realistic landing spot for him, I think it's probably going to be somewhere like San Antonio.
San Antonio. San Antonio, they was that.
San Antonio is young. They've got Wemby over there. They've got a lot of young players over there that look really good. And now they got Greg Popovich. Shout out to him, who has dealt with his health issues. He's moving on from coaching. He's becoming team president or GM. I forget which one it was. And if I'm Giannis, right, and I want to go to a place where I know they know how to play basketball, they know how to do things right. San Antonio is a spot that is extremely safe. When you look at their division, you got Dallas, who we already talked about what's going on with them. Memphis seems like they can't get it right, and they're probably going to blow that team up. New Orleans just is New Orleans. Houston is probably your only team you're worried about divisionally, and if I'm them, I get him out of the Eastern Conference if I'm Milwaukee, and send him to the Western Conference, let him fight it out over there.
And San Antonio got the picks. They got athletes. They got all types of stuff that they can offer. You know what I mean? Because when these their pick, they don't really anticipate having to do anything else. They can get Giannis, some free agents, make the playoffs, do what they got to do. I think that's the most logical sense. I don't think he's coming to New York. I would love it, but I think San Antonio is.
I think San Antonio is a good spot too. It's very logical, like EJ said. I'm gonna give you another dark horse that it's not gonna happen, but I can kind of squint my eyes and turn my head sideways and see it. And I wish I had a barf bag so that way, I could catch it after I say it or whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in Boston. You send a package of Jaylen Brown and maybe Porzingis. I don't know how many picks you would need to include because you're including Brown, and then you tie him to Tatum. They already got your boy with the bad hairline,
Derek White.
And some of the other hard nosed guys they got, and I could see them being a menace in the East.
If I'm Boston, I'd do that deal without Jaylen Brown if they'll take it. I
think you need Jaylen Brown to make the money work.
You do. But that's a lot.
And you free up the conversation of Tatum, Brown, Batman, Robin type
right.
things. And one of them to be there on their own, give them what they want. Finally,
and you have an inside-outside because both of them play on the perimeter. Giannis doesn't. Giannis doesn't really have a really good jump shot. So you got Tatum out there on the perimeter and Giannis inside doing damage.
He becomes your athletic big.
I don't like it. I like it. Let me take that back. I like it. I don't like it if I'm Boston. I think that's giving up a lot because you have two guys that are very, very serviceable, especially if they go deep this year, and if they win, forget about it. That's certainly not happening.
For sure.
But if they go deep, like you might potentially break something up that's working today. And really, Giannis didn't have a season for you to be like, he didn't look like the Giannis that we saw win a championship. He didn't look like the Giannis we saw. And then in the playoffs, he didn't look good at all either, right? It's like people have found out or noticed that he keeps the ball low and they just kept stripping him. And Giannis has a turnover problem. This dude has multiple turnovers every single game. Like these are things that you can't not look at when you're talking about trading away other superstars in a Porzingis and a Jaylen Brown to go get him. The Orlando Magic, though, let me put this out there. The Orlando Magic have 2 first round 25 picks and 2 second round. 2026, they have a first and 2 seconds. And the first that they have is Phoenix. They look like shit. They got Washington, who look like shit. And then they got a second from Detroit and a second from Boston. So when you talk about picks wise, I think they've got the picks to make it happen. I think the problem is they don't have the players. And I think, if it's Milwaukee, they may not want to do business without getting a Paolo. And I just don't think the Magic are giving up Paolo or Franz. I wouldn't.
And how old is he though? It's also the question because
Giannis?
He's in his 30s. He's been in the league 12 years, but he's young. Yeah. He's in his early 30s.
Yeah, I mean, so if you're any franchise that got a factor in because he hasn't had super injuries, you got to face it's coming down the price of something. So do you market the franchise for 10 years for a guy that's going to have to deal with father time at some point?
Giannis is what the hell
He's
is he?
30. He just
He's
turned. He
30.
just turned 30. His
Yeah.
birthday is the day after mine. Only a bunch of years. December 6th. And the day before yours, EJ. But quietly, actually, as I just pulled him up, he quietly had a 30-11-6 season. So it was quiet though, because you didn't hear people talking about him.
Yeah.
But then you got to also think about, like, if you're Milwaukee, if you're making moves, you got to now think about who's going to pair well with Dame. You know what I mean? So when you're making these moves, you're still stuck with a Dame Lillard, who, by the way, off of a Achilles, I don't know how much he's gonna miss of next year.
But contractually, I don't think that the stuff is going for too long, right? And so
He might have
there's other
2 years.
there's other factors. If you're a team like a San Antonio, right? And let's just say Kyrie, you don't know what Kyrie's going to do. You get a Kyrie that you're not expecting him to carry things. If you get him contractually where it makes sense, I'm San Antonio. Keep Giannis, Kyrie, Wemby. That's pretty damn good news.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to watch to see where that goes for next season. Knicks Celtics. How do you feel about your Knicks, EJ?
You gonna do this right now? Listen, I still hate Tom Thibodeau. Um, yeah, that's where I got to begin and end. I mean, we lose game five. This is the waits to the final 27 seconds to call the timeout. Right? He's watching the team fade. So he'd be Bickerstaff ran circles around Tom Thibodeau in swing service. And he's always going to be a difference maker. I say that to say this. I mean, we've lost to Boston all season, haven't beaten them all season. I believe we're going to win game one tomorrow. And then the rest from there, I don't know. Because Boston doesn't respect them. Those niggas came out basically, so I'm not bothered. I'm the unicorn. We gonna take them. And I think we've always lost to Boston when they go big. And Tom Thibodeau, for whatever reason, refused to put Cat and Mitch on the same floor. I think if we make that adjustment, we might have a better shot. And we just play better on the road. It just seems like, despite the fact that we have that guard and that advantage, it just seems like these guys when they're home, they just have too much pressure. So I can see this young one in Boston. I'll be happy to go seven. That's my thing. I'll be happy to go seven. If he can go seven, we have a fighting chance. If not, they'll fuck around and do this in fives.
PP, who you got in that series?
No, I think the Knicks get it done, man. I'm not a
Don't say both lose.
yeah, facts. But I think the Knicks get it done. I'm not the biggest fan of Indiana. They beat Milwaukee, but that's not tough to do these days. Especially in the first round. So I think they get it done and then probably go on to lose to either Boston or Cleveland, whichever one comes out of that series. But wait,
EJ,
I think
he's not even paying attention, dog.
I got the series.
He's not even paying attention.
No, I hear him and I appreciate him. I knew he would say that because we're the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, I didn't realize
No, he thought that the Knicks were playing the Pacers.
Oh yeah, I did.
The Knicks are playing Boston.
Oh,
In my defense, I didn't realize we were going to turn so fast from the Giannis conversation. So after I last spoke, I pulled up a video of somebody breaking down how a trade could happen or whatever. So I was trying to do some research, and didn't realize we changed the subject
during the partner.
He turned over a new leaf.
So
I think
Boston, they're going to lose. The Knicks are going to lose. But I don't. They're not going to get swept. I can see Boston in 6.
Boston looked like shit against the Magic, except for Game 6 where they won out. Or
But
Game
here's
5.
why, Steve. Here's why I think Boston can beat New York, and no bias against New York, even though we all
There's no bias that needs to be said. They beat us all year. We haven't won a game against them all year.
But the reason why I think it'll happen in playoffs is that Boston jacks up a lot of threes, and they're very, very streaky. And so I can see a scenario where Boston's jacking up threes, and New York is either making twos or missing. The score gets out of hand. Thibodeau then reverts to the norm and says, "I can't go into the rotation." He becomes JJ Redick. I got to play 5 guys. You know what I mean? And then, boom, it's done.
Time said that 50, 55 something, because that's my problem with this dude. You win 50 plus games by playing your bench. And the thing I hate contending with Knicks fans, like, they got no bench. But we won 50 something games when he started to use the bench, when he was forced to use the bench for those 10 plus games when Jalen Brunson was hurt. That's the problem. Is he reverts to that foolishness, man. Somebody has really got to pull him to the side and say, yo, you have to use the other people on the bench. You have to. Like, you have to. You can't win a series this bench only playing 6 guys. And I love Deuce McBride, but he's a 6'1" guard. He can't really figure out his identity, not because he can't play, but because Tom Thibodeau hasn't allowed him to come into anything. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, you can't bring him off the bench as a 6 man. I'd be like, yo, go win me the game. It's like, yo, I'm not used to doing this. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't work, and there's no chemistry. So I mean, I think he love it.
You guys need Karl Anthony Towns to have a really big series if you plan to win this series. Jalen Brunson he's gonna have to deal with Derek White and Drew Holiday. And then they're gonna probably switch Jalen off on him, and they're gonna switch Tatum off on him. He's gonna have a long series, and so you're gonna have Mitchell Robinson and Cat, who are gonna need to, get it done in the middle. And Kristaps, right? Who he's lengthy, but his defense isn't the greatest, and he likes to stretch the floor and stuff like that. Cat has to get off of that 3-point line, get in the paint, make Porzingis bang, pause, put him in foul trouble if you can, and then go out and eat, because otherwise, Jalen Brunson, it's either that or it's the battle of the floppers, right? Jalen Brunson been flopping all fucking playoffs. Throws his head back, so his braids, flip up and they give him the foul. Your boy Tatum has been doing the
Don't
same
do
thing,
that. Don't do that to Jalen. Because he been getting killed by Detroit
stop.
all season.
That boy
He
be
been killed.
that boy.
I
That
like how they
that
called the game. I like how they called the series. He was like, yo, nothing to see here. Play through it.
I
I
bet you
like
like
that.
how they didn't call that foul in game 5 either. And then
Yeah, but
came out.
before that play even happened, did you see Tobias Harris throw Deuce to the floor and step out of bounds?
Yeah, there's a difference between that and an actual shot, game changing shot. Anyway, Jalen Brunson been flopping. Jason Tatum has been flopping, and Jason Tatum also gets that shit off, which I can't believe we're like 3 seasons into him doing that forearm push off, and nobody has said anything about it, yo. Like, this
Man,
is every
I've been
game.
screaming about that shit for years.
Yo,
He is
I
the one
seen
that's
him.
probably killing him for that for the years. He's
Shit is
Yeah,
been
insane.
paying that for the years.
that
Insane.
that's wild. Like, I get making space, right? But it's not like he's just keeping it there. He's extending, yo. He's extending and pushing people off of their square, and that should be an offensive foul.
And
Um,
think about Steve about that, right? Like there have been like Zapruder film, like just in case you don't know the Zapruder film. I'm not saying it wrong. That's the guy who filmed Kennedy getting assassinated. Think about like the level of analyzing done on that.
who
But that's how
assassinated
they
Kennedy again?
Lee Harvey Oswald allegedly.
Is he still alive?
No, he got killed like 2 days later.
Okay, go ahead.
But but no, but my point in bringing that up is that like there's a lot of scrutiny done on that film. That's like the same level of scrutiny that's been done on the Jordan versus Jazz when he does the little swipe with his arm, and people would debate like, was that a push? Was it nothing? Blah blah blah. All,
Momentum, yeah.
yeah. Tatum is like, I mean, with Jordan, it's that one game. This is like a
Right.
career of doing that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's every game, dog. It's every game. It's almost every play. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. And if it's legal, then people need to start doing it. Just like, the Harden step back and stuff, right? Like other people should be able to do it. The only other series that pops out to me right now that I think is going to be a really, I hope it's going to be good, but I could be wrong too because I was wrong about the first round, is Thunder Nuggets. But the Thunder, like VP said last week, super rested. Game 1 is tomorrow, and I think it's going to be. I think the Nuggets can give the Thunder some work. I don't know that they win that series, but especially because now they got that backup coach. He just looked like Pete Buttigieg. He don't look like he know what he's doing. Not saying Pete doesn't know what he's doing. He just looks like he himself doesn't know what he's doing, but he does look like Pete. And I don't know. The Nuggets, they squeaked by the Clippers. I don't know that they can, get past the Thunder like that. The team is just so deep.
Well, here's another question too. I mean, we talked about everyone else, but we've kind of been disrespected to the fact that it seems like I don't know if they have the best record, but number one seed in the East.
Cavs. Oh, they're gonna spank the shit out of the Pacers.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any time. I don't even think there's a conversation to be had there. The Pacers shouldn't have beat the Bucks, in my opinion, but it happened 4-1.
Right.
But Cleveland, I'm with you. Cleveland is a really good team, really deep team. Two bigs, two guards, and a lot of other position players that can help get it done. I think we'll probably need to spend some time on them in the next round when they either play the Celtics or the Knicks, especially because either one of those matchups are a really good matchup for the Cavs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
I'm just happy the Knicks extended their playoff run. I was nervous. I was worried. But the youth of that Detroit team really came out. And unfortunately for them, they haven't won a playoff game since that 08 run when they won the championship. But they'll be back. If Detroit don't bail on JD Bickerstaff, they'll be back. They'll be tough to deal with.
Yeah, that's a young team that can only get better, I think, at this point. As long as they don't blow it up. Hey, what freedoms, what constitutional freedoms have I lost this week, VP?
I mean, according to the president, I'm not sure if you still have due process. He was interviewed this morning on Meet the Press, and the Kristen Welker asked him. She was like, your Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that citizens and non-citizens both have the right to due process. What are your thoughts on that? And he said something along the lines of like, I don't know if I believe that. I'm not a lawyer. So this guy is he's starting to like lay the groundwork for things that are going to happen that are going to really be
Before you finish, I have to come on here and once again say you're right. This guy is a dictator. He is.
Yeah.
Yo, does Marco Rubio know that he's Cuban? Does Trump know Marco Rubio's Cuban?
He's
not while he's serving under Trump.
He's European. They don't count. See, we always forget that Cubans have the Afro side and the European side. The European Cubans can easily code switch and be white if they need to. Afro Cubans not so much. European Cubans like Rubio, they can tap into their Spaniard roots and go with the bullshit. And you're always going to have that dichotomy when you're talking about this thing. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's crazy, man. But you see like a lot, like he just did this executive order this week, or might have been the end of last week, where a week before last, I mean, it's called like Unleash the Cops or some shit like that. Some people have written that they think that this is going to be a prelude to like doing, like trying to declare martial law. You know, you see due process. They've deported 2 U.S. citizens. One is a 2-year-old, one is a 4-year-old with cancer. They claim that when they were deporting the mother said that she didn't want to be separated from, in both, it's two different families. The mother said they didn't want to be separated from the child, so they deported the U.S. citizen child with the mother.
So instead of letting the mother stay, yo,
right,
that's
and
wild.
then, but that's also disputed. The father in one of those cases was like, no, that's not. I'm here in the U.S. I could have kept my kid here, you know, and the lawyer also disputes that. And funny enough, this case is being heard by this judge named Timothy Doty down in Louisiana, who was appointed by Trump the first time. And this guy is batshit crazy. A lot of crazy rulings from this dude. And even he is like, I'm not buying this shit. But because the mom has already been deported, they're not really sure what he can do, you know. And he tried to get on the phone with the mom down in I think they sent the mom to Venezuela, I want to say. The judge tried to get the mom on the phone just to figure out like what happened or whatever, because he's not sure if the Trump administration violated his order or not, because the only information he has is what they're telling him. He don't got nothing from the mom because they got rid of her, you know. And so yeah, we're all like, people keep saying, I think we're headed towards a constitutional crisis. We're already in a constitutional crisis. The courts told the Trump administration not to deport Albrego Garcia, the dude from Maryland. Deported him anyway. The courts ordered them to bring him back. They haven't done so. Trump is saying, he said multiple times in media availabilities that he's never coming back, but they keep telling the court, well, I mean, we don't know how much we can do, you know, because he's in El Salvador. I mean, we don't control El Salvador. We're paying the El Salvador government to house these people in prison. El Salvador is nothing to us. And I don't mean to shit on them. Like, I'm not trying to sound like some kind of asshole American, but I'm just saying, in terms of like the power dynamic, you know what I'm saying? Right. If we told him to send this dude back, he's gonna come back. You know what I'm saying? But they're acting like, oh, I mean, I mean, our hands are tied. I mean, El Salvador, they're sovereign countries. I mean, it's nothing we can do. You know, so it's this shit is insane.
Not only that, though, right? There is, like, when you're talking about law and deportation for children, there's precedence, right? This is not the first kid that's had parents have been deported, right? So typically in these state situations, because I've been a part of it on a lesser scale, what they do is they say, okay, where's the kid going? Okay, does he have American family here? And usually what happens in the States, when they're dealing with child custody, they'll look to the next of kin. They'll do what is called a kinship guardianship. So that right there was an option. And to Deacon's point, they just ignored it. They said, nah, get rid of it. That almost never happens to where you decide the custody of the kid in a state within your legal realm to just get rid of it. You normally find the next of kin. You affirm with the parents, both of them, one or the other, and you weigh in the options. And obviously, this wasn't an option.
Yeah.
If you can go get Andrew Tate, you can go get him back. Like, if you can make that happen, you can go get him back. Like, this is the crazy part about it.
And it shows you what they prioritize.
Yeah. How do you feel about the order he signed about disciplining children?
I didn't see that one. Like corporal punishment?
It just says disciplining children.
Yeah, I mean, I operate on this rule of thumb when it comes to Trump, and some people, you know, I don't know how much of our audience is like, you know, Republicans or Trump supporters or whatever, but you know, this doesn't matter to me. If Trump does it, I'm pretty sure I don't like it. And it's not like a liberal versus conservative, Democrat versus Republican thing or whatever. It's just that Trump is a liar. He's fucking racist. You know what I'm saying? And so anything that he does, to me, it seems like it's done for some kind of nefarious reason. And therefore, I probably don't like it. So just off the, I mean, one, I'm not for teachers disciplining children, especially if it comes to any kind of physical discipline. But then I also can see that, you know, if I bet if I spent 5 minutes looking into this thing or whatever, it's probably going to have something to do with, you know, some kid says that they are trans or identifies as a different sex, and it's going to allow the teacher to punish them in some kind of way to say, no, you're a boy or you're a girl or whatever. You know what I mean? Like some bullshit like that do something they're not qualified to do.
I think it's going to get some teachers fucked up. That's what I think. Because I had a conversation with somebody who was a teacher. She was a substitute teacher, I believe, and she's like, "Well, there's other ways to discipline outside of physical." And my thing is this: what are those other ways that don't currently exist? I can't think of any. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's all physical, and um, we live in a space today where a lot of parents don't even hit their own children. And if they do, they don't allow their family members to hit their own children or discipline their children physically. So I don't know that there's going to be people accepting of teachers physically disciplining their children. I, for one, will not allow it. There'll be some consequences to be paid, and I think it's going to lead to more of that, and it's gonna make a mess for
I think it's
sure.
more along the lines of what he was saying. Like, there's gonna be those instances where kid has stress. We don't want to respect, the fact that having drugs is, a cultural thing or stuff like that. But do I believe in some of these urban spaces that kids need more discipline? Absolutely, because we're failing. I mean, in these urban spaces, kids are wilding out. So I don't agree with it coming from the administration because the administration will it is. But culturally, and this is where I think in the communal sense, we have to do better disciplining these children because they're wilding out in these schools. They are wilding out.
Right, but when you say discipline, I think you talk more from a parent standpoint, from a
Parent accountability.
yeah, from a village, right? It takes a village to raise. But from a teacher standpoint, I don't know that, that's not the discipline I'm looking for. And not only that, it could lead to the harm of teachers. You know what I'm saying? Like we saw that video that we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago where the dude smacked the shit out of the teacher. You know what I mean? Like, don't let Donald Trump telling you that you have the green light to discipline a child get you beat up by either a parent or by another kid or by the kid
Or worse.
or worse than beat up.
Yeah. So I gave it a quick read or whatever. It seems like it's talking about there was some kind of order put in place back in 2014 during the Obama administration that essentially threatened federal funding from schools that were unequally disciplining, meaning just, like suspensions, whatever. And it seems like it was like a race thing in it. And so it threatened their federal funding. And so they basically put out notice saying, we're watching. And if you are issuing discipline like heavy handedly, like based on race or whatever, we're going to pull your federal funding. And so they're saying they're getting rid of that or whatever. So I'm guessing if you're like some black kid in Mississippi and you're went to the bathroom without a hall pass, you could expect to be expelled now or whatever without any help from the federal government saying that's not okay.
Hmm.
And that was the thing. It was a disproportionate number of how schools were disciplining black kids versus white
Mm-hmm.
kids. Okay, they
Right.
get into something. The black kids get 7 days for expulsion versus, are we equally disciplining these kids?
Right.
To your point, you talk about a Bible state or place like Mississippi or Alabama, Georgia, etc., where they're going off of no dreads, no this or no that. they're now giving them the green light to do whatever in the new course.
Mm-hmm. And it's I like to say to people all the time, like this, when we talk race, a lot of people think, oh, black folks got the right to vote. We can sit in the front of the bus, Barack Obama, Harris, whatever. Everything's all good now. But, Jim Crow, although those Jim Crow laws are gone, so to speak, right? Jim Crow has sons and daughters and had granddaughters and grandsons and whatever. And those grandsons and granddaughters are now your school administrators, your school principals, your loan officers at the bank, your college admissions officers, and so on and so forth. And we can't pretend like these things just don't exist anymore. And so this is how you can end up seeing unequal disciplinary actions being taken at a school on the basis of race, where, like, to EJ's point, a fight breaks out and Johnny, gets 3 days indoor suspension, but Tyrone gets expelled. You know what I'm saying? And so this is what, this kind of thing, I'm assuming, from 2014 was trying to combat. But because of the Trump administration and its racist ideology, they try to pretend that there's no racism that's happening in the United States, or that has happened for that matter. And the only actual racism that's happening in the country right now is actually reverse racism towards white people. That's what they want you to believe.
Yeah. And we live in America.
And what's funny is, real quick, is that to even call something reverse racism, it means that there was like some racism happening one direction. You understand what I'm saying? So
we're living in a country where a woman was recorded recently at a playground calling a 5-year-old black autistic child a nigger, and then going on the camera and responding to the person who confronted her and saying, well, that's what he is because he took the snacks out of my baby bag, and she does a GoFundMe because naturally the video goes out, it impacts her, right, negatively, and now she's a victim. And so her GoFundMe has already raised something like 300,000, which was the initial target, and now she's raised the target to 1 million, and I think it's already at 500,000 last time I read an article online about it. And this is the support that we get, but they want us to turn around and say racism isn't a thing in America.
Right.
Well, to VP's point, and to your last point, you have to acknowledge that it exists to then say it's a reverse, right? But the whole ideology of it is that racism is a systemic thing that has only existed for those of us of color, and you know what I mean. So when you say that, you can't ever say it's reversed because there's never been a point in this time where white folks couldn't vote because of how they looked. They didn't get sick in disease because of how they looked. You know what I mean? So to even say that it's a reverse thing, there's never been an instance in this nation. I mean, even going back to when immigrants came in this country, they then became citizens and got their right to vote. We had been citizens here since we were forced here, and eventually got citizenship, and still couldn't do anything because of the way we looked. You know what I mean? Racism is a systemic thing. So I mean, to your point, if you acknowledge one, you gotta acknowledge what it means and how it affects people. And the administrations are saying, no, it didn't happen. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. I mean, and then you look at during the Ketanji Brown Jackson hearings when she was being put on the Supreme Court during the confirmation hearings. That whole time the Republicans would go on these hearings, they would go on TV, question her education. Like this chick went to Harvard for undergrad, Harvard Law School, been a judge for all these years, whatever, has all the qualifications, but because she's black, we don't know if she's smart enough. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, you got Brett Kavanaugh, who goes up for his hearing. This dude's accused of sexual assault, of being a fucking drunk or whatever, and he's in the hearing ranting and raving and shit like that, and no problem. They put him on the court. It's all good. You know what I'm saying? And it's this kind of shit. You got Biden who puts in Lloyd Austin to be Secretary of Defense, a decorated 4-star general in the Army, made him Secretary of Defense, and then Trump replaces that man with Pete Hegseth, who's the Saturday Fox News host, who's also a fucking drunk and has been accused of sexual assault multiple times. And the only reason that we didn't hear more about it during his confirmation hearing is because all of the women got NDAs. That's who our Secretary of Defense is now. You know what I mean? But they'll tell you that Lloyd Austin or Ketanji Brown Jackson got the job because they're black. They're unqualified. They're black. That's why they got it. But Pete Hegseth, who is a alcoholic former Fox News host, you know what I mean? He got the job because he's qualified. It's complete nonsense, man.
Yep. And let me check that. The woman, GoFundMe actually shut her down, but there was another site. I forget what the Christian one is called. Is it Crowdfund? I forget what it's called. Mm-hmm. CrowdStrike, Crowdfund, one of those. It's not CrowdStrike, but
CrowdStrike was,
it's
antivirus company.
That's it's a software. But GoFundMe did shut her down, but she made $500,000 on the actual Christian one.
There's a whole other conversation
for the same type of thing. So I'll find it. I'm sure I'll find the site when I do a little bit of research here, live research like the VP. But yeah, that's the world where we are currently living in. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it's only going to get worse.
To VP's point, and I hate to segue, but this I didn't get to get into the beginning of the pod because I was at, my youngest kid's baptism, who wanted to get baptized in the church that she goes to with her mom. And it was just funny because, after years of time, I hadn't been around my ex and her family in a while, but she has 2 younger sisters who I love. They've always shown me love since day to day, showed me love. And it was just interesting because, both of them were raised in church and the Bible backwards and forward. And I asked them, I said, well, when's the last time you went to church? And, it's been a long time for them because their family, they've kind of fallen out because they were raised, they were so sheltered to be in home church, they were homeschooling. I'm talking about these people were black Republicans, you know what I mean? And it's funny because people now are starting to understand, and speaking specifically to them, they understand the fact that we've been raised to something our whole lives, and that's not the way the world works. It's not the way it is. I want tattoos. I want to be able to do my own thing. I've been relaxing my whole life, and we have this element where religion is weapon of this, as we always say, and see here, like the weapon of the brainwash people that think it's black and white. It's not. And even to your point, and you said last week, what does it say in the Bible? You can't do this, or God doesn't love you for X or Y. So again, people are in those spaces where they're being manipulated by religion.
Give, Send, Go is the one that she's raised, and she's raised $628,000 to date, and it is currently trending. So, not GoFundMe. Shout out to them for actually cutting it down. But Give, Send, Go is the racist platform that is giving this woman access to this type of fund.
Mm-hmm. I need $1 million to protect my family. So I
hate saying that VP is right sometimes.
Yeah, this whole situation is just terrible, man. It's terrible. It's only been 3-4 months, and we have anywhere from 3.5 years to the rest of Trump's lifetime, depending on, what happens, I guess.
He might round up being Mao Zedong or one of these guys from the past that is a form of dictatorship until he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, we got what's funny too is that like or not even funny, but like what pisses me off about our country is that there's no sense of like we're so like hyper partisan. There's no sense of like let's do what's best for the country, right? And so what you like in Canada, for example, we just had the Liberal Party over there win elections. They were down like over 20 percentage points to the Conservatives, and the Conservative leader is a guy who kind of models himself after Trump. And Trump gets in office, people see how crazy he is in Canada, and you saw folks in Canada who were like, even the ones who were in the Green, they have an actual Green Party in Canada. They were like, I'm not going to vote for the Green Party this time because that's going to make the vote too split, and the Conservative is going to win. So I'm going to go ahead and vote for the Liberal person this time to make sure the Conservatives don't take power because I don't want this Trump like dude in power. You know what I'm saying? And we saw the same thing happen in Germany when they have this party called the ADF, which is like basically a Nazi party, who JD Vance and Marco Rubio in the last week have been speaking out in support of. By the way, um, um, when it looked like they were going to take power, you saw people from these other parties saying, "I'm going to not vote for my normal party and switch over to this other party that has a legit chance of not letting the Nazis take power." You know what I'm saying? And then we just saw that like 2 or 3 days ago in Australia, same thing, where people said, we're not going to vote for these like Trump like folks or whatever. I'm going to put party aside and do what's right for my country. And I just don't see that happening here. And I think part of the reason why is that I asked a question before, and I really don't mean it because I don't think that this is a way for us to live as a people. But like the question I said before was like, are we too free? Right. And what I mean by that is that because of the freedoms that we have in this country, we see like, freedom of speech or whatever. You see all this nonsense that gets reported in the media from places like Fox and Newsmax, et cetera, et cetera. People put out nonsense online on social media and stuff like that. And there's nothing to like check these things. I saw a thing. I don't know if you guys saw that clip of Van Jones interviewing these 3 black Trump supporters in North Carolina. And he asked them, why did you vote for Trump? And it was 2 black women and 1 black guy. And the black guy said, well, I mean, for me, he was like, I get all my news from TikTok. He was like, TikTok is the holy grail of information. And it's like you're watching this stuff, and it's like, did you know your government was doing this? Did you know Joe Biden was doing this? And I'm watching it like, wow. And it's because of nonsense like this that these people have a bunch of bullshit in their head and then vote for people like Trump. And then we have the problems that we're having. That's not to say that Biden was perfect or anything like that, but like,
Yeah.
in
But they
these other
believe,
countries, they don't allow shit like that to happen. They
right.
police these things to say you can't put out bullshit like that. They like campaign ads that just vividly lie and say, "Did you know that Steve supports the Eagles?" And then you got to spend 3 months fighting that as a candidate, right? They say, "Okay, you sent this ad to us. We looked at it. Everything that we know about Steve, this is patently false. So we're not airing this bullshit because legally we're not allowed to because it's completely false." You understand what I'm saying? And we don't do that here.
Yeah, Shiloh Hendricks was the girl's name. She's in Minnesota. I mean, why does all this racist stuff happen in Minnesota?
Yeah.
Because the class system out there is so.
Okay, why don't you have the boss to say it right now again?
Fuck you, nigger.
Okay.
Nigger.
All right, that's what you say.
And there you have it.
You'll go digging through people's shit, you dumb fuck.
Nobody digging into your shit.
A little fucking kid just did, you dumbass.
That little kid, you call him a nigger? The little child?
What if he acts like one, he's gonna
Are you about to hit?
If he acts like one, he's going to be called one.
But it's also to your point though, VP, while we don't have a country culture to do that, and I got to shoot at our party a little bit, it's also because we don't really have a strong field with politics side on the other side that's in our streets, that's in our neighborhoods on the off season. And I say the off season when it's not time to go to the polls, that's mobilizing people saying, bro, this shit is foul. What are you gonna do about it? Like, remember when you were saying all of these things and you created all of this stir of saying, yo, you don't get in front of this, and the dictatorship, it's gonna be that, it's gonna be all that. It's coming from you, right? But it didn't come from a lot of our democratic leaders before the time it needed to be. And I saw some pieces and I even shared it where it was like, oh, the Democrats are fear mongering. And it felt that way. It did in a lot of ways. And we're at a point now where you have to, okay, we now have the evidence to where it's no longer fear mongering, it's fact. And if you don't do something about it, your way of life is going to be gone. And the crazy thing for me is, as powerful as a certain community is in this country, it's crazy to me how quiet they are in the grand scheme of things with Trump's allegiance to the Nazis. You would think a certain party, a certain people in this country religiously would be on the forefront. And I mean, I know there are groups of this religion that are out there that are constantly against them, but there's a lot more that are completely silent because monetarily they're still winning. And the thing is, people got to realize while my people are still eating in this country because we're good and we created a wealthy stronghold. What's bad for everybody and the justice to one is the justice to all, and that's the
Hmm.
problem. And that might be the capitalistic nature of this country, where it's like, I pulled my bootstraps up, my people were immigrants. Yeah, but your people were white regardless of their race or their ethnicity, they still were able to operate in this country without impunity, without blocks that our people did. And that's the problem. People in this country, they look at our situations and they say, well, you got off, look at me. I'm of this religion. No, but bro, you're not of this ethnicity. You're
Hmm.
not of this social class. And that's the problem. Too many Americans, while we have that freedom, we also have the freedom to say, well, I got mine, get yours. And we know
Yeah.
that's not how it works.
VP,
And
where's the military on this, right? I know in the military oath, they pledge allegiance to the Constitution and obeying the orders of the president, right? But they also swear to support and defend the Constitution against, the enemies, right? Foreign and domestic, etc. Where is
Mhm.
the military on this? And at what point would they or should they step in for the things that are happening? Like we're seeing US citizens being deported. We're seeing them openly say US citizens will continue to be deported and they have a plan to continue that. Like the Constitution clearly outlines that that's not legal. Where the fuck is the military on this?
Well, I mean, the military has no role in our politics. So I honestly hope the military doesn't get involved either way, because either way, I think it's a lose. Whether it's for on the side that we perceive as being good or the side that they perceive as being good, I think it's a lose lose for the country. But the military, I don't think that they're gonna do anything like illegal. I hope not. I think that the military has become a lot more political since I served. We saw that during things with the COVID vaccine and wearing masks and stuff like that. um so I would hope that it's still enough non-political military folks who are not looking for like some kind of revolution or some crap like that or whatever. But yeah, I don't think the military gets involved in this thing either way. I think the real issue is I think the first thing that you need is already happening, is which is the courts. And um you see a lot of court decisions like pushing back on some of the things that Trump is doing. And then you need other institutions like these universities, like Harvard, who stood up to him, and Princeton and some of the others who were starting to stand up or whatever, unlike Columbia. But then I also think that you need a political organization, to EJ's point, like the Democratic Party, to step up. And this is where we're kind of struggling at, because I told you guys a few weeks ago when we potted that you're going to start seeing a fight occur over the next few weeks to months on the side of the party that says we need to fight, we need to engage, we can't sit down and wait. and then the more establishment types who are saying, no, just sit back, let Trump. You know, if your enemy's hurting themselves, you don't, or if your enemy's digging a hole, you hand them a shovel, you don't help them out, and all that kind of bullshit or whatever. So this kind of like lay in wait situation, and the two sides are fighting, and we're gonna see who emerges or whatever. But on one side you got people like Chuck Schumer, who Trump did something last week, and he was on a show, one of the Sunday shows, and they were asking him like, "What are you doing about this?" or whatever, and he talked about how he sent the White House, I'm quoting here, this strongly worded letter that asks 8 very specific questions. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, I thought that my rights were in jeopardy, but now that I know this guy sent a letter, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I can sleep well at night now. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? And then you have other people like AOC and Bernie, and even David Hogg, who's a vice chairman of the Democratic Party, who was talking about raising money, a vice chair of the Democratic Party, who's talking about raising money to start challenging Democrats who aren't standing up enough and fighting enough against this stuff. So, like I said, you kind of have this internal battle happening within the party. We'll see who emerges, but yeah.
But you mentioned the courts, and the courts have already tried to step in, and that's not enough. It hasn't happened. Like, they've already gone against rulings. He's already gone against rulings. He's deported people. He's going to continue to do it. He's been told that he needs to bring the person back or at least coordinate it. And they're going fully against it. Like, there's no, well, let's let the courts do this. Someone needs to step in. Amendments 4 through 7 protect against all the shit that they're doing right now and the way that they're treating American citizens. And somebody needs to step in and do something about it. And if it's not, I mean, clearly, if who else is there to uphold it?
Well, I don't. So the courts don't have like any kind of enforcement mechanism to make people follow their orders, right? So typically, what we see is that the court will issue an order, and the administration will follow it because they know they can be held in contempt of court. But in this situation, if the courts hold somebody in administration in contempt, it's up to the Justice Department to prosecute that person. Now, the Justice Department under Trump, Pam Bondi, a former Florida Attorney General, now the United States Attorney General, they're not going to prosecute these people. The courts do have the power to appoint their own prosecutor to prosecute the case. But then at that point, Trump can just pardon the person. And it's stuff like this this scenario that I just laid out is why myself and people who think like me were so upset about this presidential immunity ruling from last year that the courts gave Trump, because the dissenters, the liberal justices, this is exactly the kind of shit they were pointing out. If you do this, we don't have a presidency anymore. We have a king, because the president doesn't have to follow the law, because anytime that he breaks it, if anybody tries to do anything about it, he can just say, well, no, I'm not going to prosecute the case, or I'm going to issue pardons or whatever. And they just made it seem like, oh, no. Everybody's going to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And that's just not how the world works, And
but again, isn't that the fault of our last
no,
trying to be bipartisan, thinking that you can trust the other side of the aisle to do this right? And that isn't the case, and that's kind of what me and Steve have been saying for years now. Stop fighting with the gloves on, with the 8-ounce gloves, and they're over there fighting with the 10-ounce gloves, and they're cheating. At some point, we got to go low. At some point, we got to do something here for this at that level. You got to go and teach your people that this isn't it.
I mean, like I said, we'll see what happens. The battle's ongoing. We'll see what sides win.
It's a lose-lose battle, no question.
But I think, the reason I raised the court, Steve, is not necessarily for like the courts making. So Trump does something, right? He's saying what I'm doing is legal. It's always been legal. Any other president could have done it before me. They just chose not to, right? The courts look at this, who are the arbiters of our law, and they say, no, this is illegal. It's unconstitutional. You can't do it. If he continues upon this course, then we need other folks like us, the citizens, people, the politicians and stuff, to raise up to say, we're not going to stand for this. You know what I mean? And so that's the role that I think the courts have to play, is to tell us, this is out of bounds. You can't do this or what, you know, and then for people to take that and use it as a foundation of why they're opposing this stuff, you know.
4 years from now, though, that's the
Well, no,
problem.
the first real test that we'll get of this electorally is actually going to be this year in November. Both New Jersey and Virginia have off-year elections. They elect their governor the year after the presidency. So New Jersey is a blue state, so I'm not necessarily concerned about there. But in Virginia, they currently have a Republican governor, and they have a state legislature that is I think it's split where the Democrats control like the House and the Republicans control the Senate, or vice versa. So that'll be the first real test electorally to see how people feel about this. And also, don't forget that all these government employees that they're laying off, a lot of them, even though they work in DC, they live in Maryland and Virginia. And so they're going to have a lot to say in these upcoming elections as well.
And Virginia, you're going to see a strong turn, I believe, because to that last point, there's a lot of people that are sitting in Cushy, like Alexandria, you know, in a two-family household, 200,000 as the income for both people. They've been laid off, they've been left astray, and it's largely because of this. It's going to be no question. It's going to be no
I, I think the problem is these people are smiling in your face, and they're on the internet saying they're against it, but they're benefiting from it, right? They're white, you know, and regardless of how many of them stand there and say, no, this is wrong, we shouldn't treat people like this. I just don't, you know, get the feeling that it's genuine.
But I think to that point, you're right. And I think if they have stayed, would have remained that way, they had not been so much into these layers, because their whole way of life is shaken up. You know what I mean? If you talking about thousands of people in DC, and they were working remotely, company, contracts, etc. You talking about people with GS 13s making anywhere from $150,000 to 200,000. I'm talking about per person per household. I'm not talking about just one person. You talking about both people making about 400,000 combined per household. They've been vastly affected, and that's going to have to say something from this way. It's going to have to.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll believe it when I see it.
Me too.
Um, I told you, man. There's more people that are against racism or that are racist and for racism than I think anything else in this country, and it's just showing its head. Um, what you been watching, EJ?
Um, a good American Family jump still. Raising Kanan last episode picked up tremendously, so I had to fire. And I would really wish you would get back into that, stick into that, since the last episode that we just saw this Friday was fire. Like, it was just fire.
For what?
Raising Kanan.
Oh, okay.
And the thing I love about it is so hilarious. Like, it's so fucking rough on. It's like, wow. You know what I mean? So those were a couple of things that I watched. I was gonna go see the Marvel joint, Thunderbolts, but every review I've seen of it, personally, both. I mean, I got people that write professional reviews, and I got people in person talk. They said it was absolute garbage.
Really?
Absolute garbage. I'm talking about the cast saying this sweat through it. I got a guy who writes, professional reviews, who gets paid by the studios to do the best job he can. He was like, yeah, this is the most difficult review I've done in the last 5 years.
I wonder if it's garbage because to some people because we have this pedestal and this understanding and expectation of Marvel, and this is just different. Like this is unknown. This is not for the average avid watcher. This is for you. This is for people that actually still read comic books or have read comic books for a very long time, follow the comics, understand what's going on, right? Like even being an owner of comic books myself and being in groups of people that own comic books, I don't think Thunderbolts is one that sticks out to anybody, right? And so I'm wondering if, although the reviews are bad for everyday people, I wonder if it would turn out to be something that you as a Marvel super fan would appreciate more, because it's more closer to the stories and what's really happened in the past.
I think there's room for that based on what they said, because the one brother he did say he thinks they did a good job giving you better backstory of all the characters, even though to these questions we don't ask, do I need to watch some of the Disney series to know these people? And the answer is yes. For this film, you absolutely have to have watched some of their series to kind of know who these people are. But they supposedly try to do a better job giving you more backstory, but they just said it's not good. It's not a good thing.
I mean, it has a I'm looking at it now. It got an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb. So it seems to be doing well amongst fans and critics. So, but I mean, art is subjective. You know what I mean? So, but I think, like, to kind of to piggyback off the question that Steve asked, I think part of the problem with Marvel is that they're a victim of their own success. So they came out the gate, well, not out the gate, because they've been out for a while. It's just they finally found something that works, and then once they did it, they were killing it. And then through some kind of fluke, they had the success they had with Guardians of the Galaxy, because they were going through contract situations that we all know, that we talked about previously, with all those, RDJ, Chris Evans, etc. And so they made Guardians of the Galaxy kind of like as a placeholder while they, get the money figured out, and then got back to the main thing. But because that was such a success, they said, let's make everything. And now you're making all of these properties that people don't really know about unless you were somebody in the comics. And then what ends up happening is that people like me, who's very unfamiliar with these characters, watch these movies or these series if it ends up being a Disney Plus thing, and you're kind of like, eh. And then people who are the day ones, like EJ, who's been there for the comics, etc., they watch it. And whereas I'm just like, show them a little grace, they're like, yo, what the fuck was this? You know what I mean? And so I think this is where they're failing, is that they still seem to be in this mode of, we're gonna make everything that is in Marvel's intellectual property, we're gonna make. Like they reintroduced Howard the Duck in freaking one of the Guardians movies. I wouldn't be surprised if in 2026 we get a Howard the Duck film.
We should.
They
Howard the Duck,
they
amazing.
It's rated on. And to your point though, I think Kevin Feige and those guys, they really overestimated, fans' loyalty. And when you think about the properties that he did want, you think
right.
about it, this was a year that Blade was supposed to come out. They shelved it, they did all these different things, and people really wanted that. And now you're giving us all these different things because you're trying to tap into all these social political things on the road, and it doesn't make a good stretch of time.
And
Well,
I
you
think
have
that's
to.
part of the reason why.
I was going to say, you have to throw Marvel a little bit of bail for two reasons, right? One, they went through they went through the pandemic slump like anybody else, right? They're not above it, but also they had a curveball in the Jonathan Majors thing that derailed. We don't know what percentage of things that derailed: rewriting, rebroadcasting, all of that stuff. So they're trying to stay afloat through that scandal, which, I mean, we knew he had, his name was in the next, what, 5 movies that they expected to put out, right? He was going to play a major part, and they were forced, I'm assuming, by Disney to go away from him. And here we are, right? So now we're having to settle for subpar, maybe some stuff that was already in the tuck, or what have you, right? Maybe stuff that didn't even make the cut. For all we know, Thunderbolts may not have made the cut, and they went back to it because it might have already been written and potentially partially filmed, and they're like, we got to get content out, let's get something out, you know what I mean? Because while we redo what we're going to do, with the multiverse.
And you know, I'm not sympathetic to that argument, right? But at the same time, and I kill Disney, or not Disney, Warner Brothers, I meant to say, for the stuff they do with DC, right? But I think one of the things that DC, even though they haven't done it as well as I'd like, is that they understand the people who want to see DC movies. They want to see Batman, they want to see Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Green Lantern. They don't really care about any of these other people because most of them don't know any of these other people because most of us don't read comic books. You know what I mean? And so for me, those main 5-6 people I just named. Those are the people who I know. I watched the Justice League cartoon. I know that Aquaman exists and some of these other folks who are in the Justice League, right? But when I watched that cartoon on Saturday morning, those other characters who might be huge in the comic books have their own series in their own right, et cetera, et cetera. They're side characters. You know what I mean? And most people don't go to the movies to see the side character movies. They want to see the main event. You don't go to a boxing match to see the undercard. You may like a fight that's on the undercard, right? But you showed up to see the main event.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said that's why Aquaman failed.
Right. You know what I mean? Everybody goes to these things to see the main event, you know, and so by not focusing on those things, your Iron Man, you know, I mean, now that they got back all the Fox stuff, I don't have a problem with trying to reintegrate things, right? Because you got to get X-Men in there. X-Men is huge. You know, Fantastic Four, to EJ, they may seem huge. To me, they don't. You know what I mean? But I get it that they're like a cornerstone of the thing. But again, I'm not a comics guy.
When you talk about Avengers, you gotta have the Fantastic Four in there.
No, I get that, but I'm saying from my like the understanding of like how all this stuff ties, like the Fantastic Four aren't like a foundational piece to me because I'm not that deep into it. You know what I mean? So for me, it don't matter if they do Fantastic Four or whatever. I feel like X-Men has to be done. But you showed us from the beginning the main thing is Iron Man, Captain America, you know, all the folks in the original Avengers or whatever. And they've branched off to all this other shit, Eternals and She-Hulk and you know the Moon Knight and all this other shit that nobody cares about. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the thing. It isn't the properties in itself, and I get your point. Their job is to make these other people as important to connecting them to the larger picture. When you're talking about the Fantastic Four, it's literally the first Marvel comic to ever be made. The only problem was they were tied up in Sony, Fox, and, well, not in Sony, but in Fox. So in the same way that you were allowed to get Spider-Man back, you got them back, you know, how are we going to integrate them? They dug themselves a hole and since that they're now relying on multiverse. This is the thing that Marvel's never been great at. That was the thing that they brought to DC. That they said, well, they're doing this, they're making it successful. How can we build on it? But the thing is, you never really created that to begin with, right? You just did it because someone else was doing it. And now Marvel is using that as their baseline to save up their shit. And so now they're counting on people like you and Steve, while Steve knows things, and you know the positive thing. Now you have to win on something that was never really great in itself. And now you're making it the basis for everything you do going forward. It's very hard to do that. And to your point, people want to see what they want to see. But Feige and Marvel, they're dragging you out to get things and hopes they can just stay along for this one and get us the same seats, regardless. And that's not the case. And to your point, DP says that, but I need to see this on Disney Plus. And unfortunately, they're coming into a space where you have to assume that neither one of y'all have seen the new Daredevil series. And that right now is making a major impact to where Marvel's going to go for the next 6 years. And neither one of y'all have even seen the roots of the Daredevil series. And they're doing
Right.
themselves injustice for it.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I was gonna say with Fantastic Four, I see the need for them because they're valuable to Avengers, but I also see VP side of things. Like you're not you're not selling a fucking Human Torch sleep set. You know what I'm saying? Like kids are not running to Target and telling their mom to take them there because they want to get a thing doll, right? Spider-Man, yes. Batman, think how many Batman movies have we seen? So I get what you're saying there. Like DC knows this is the cash cow. I'm gonna give you Batman with different actors. I'm gonna give you the
Right.
Batman villains. I'm gonna give you a Joker fucking musical because I think I can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like so DC is just pounding what's popular into your brain and it's working. Marvel is trying to go different routes and some of it's going to work and some of it's going to fail, right? You throw shit at the screen and see what fits. I think that they're gonna have their big comeback. I think starting now. Fantastic Four, I think, because Galactus is in there, that's gonna be a major step in the right direction. And then we're gonna start to see X-Men. And once you get X-Men in there, that's when you start to bring all the old heads out. You know what I mean? The people that are our age that grew up on the 90s X-Men, you're gonna have the true old heads that were actual comic book fans that are gonna want to see X-Men done right. I think Marvel's they're gonna bounce back. They'll be all right. They'll be all right.
I don't know,
And now we don't have a woke president, so they don't have to force in full women fight scenes and shit like that. You know what I mean? As time fillers.
I don't know.
Shout out to women though. Mother's Day's next week.
When it came out to Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner just came out recently and said, "Yo, we wanted to do another Hawkeye series for Disney Plus, and they offered him less money than he got the first. So now you have a contractual dispute on these little properties that nobody asked for. You can't even get the main actor.
VP, your boy Paul Walter Hauser is in Fantastic Four, by the way.
Oh, the guy from Queen Pins?
From Queen Pens and Snake, I think what's his name? Snakebite in Cobra Kai. Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy.
I like that guy. He's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just they're doing too much, man. Like you gotta it's oversaturated. There's all these Disney Plus series, then there's all these end credit scenes they gotta pay off. Like, you got to remember that. Oh, remember in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, from however many years ago, they had that end credit scene with I want to say it was Charlize Theron who was in there playing some character who I have no fucking clue who that is or how she's relevant in any of the universe or whatever. But now I got to be on the lookout for that, And
Well, that's because you didn't see Eternals. That's why.
I did see Eternals.
Well, you don't remember her from the Eternals. You saw it, but you didn't.
Unless it was a different actress playing that character, because I don't know who that is.
Charlize Theron was in Eternals.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all. Yeah,
EJ would remember her.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. But it's shit like this is what I'm talking about. Like I remember when we would go to the movies and we would watch one of the Marvel joints, and they would do an end credit scene, and the whole audience would gasp. And I'm like, man, what was that? I gotta get out of here so I can get on my phone and Google, what that was about. And then it's like, oh shit, I was so excited. But now it's like I can't keep these. It's like I need a like one of them Google Docs to with all the strings. This thing leads to this thing, and this thing is connected to that thing, and this thing goes back to 2008, and blah blah blah. It's too much shit, man.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching. Y'all want to beat the Marvel dead horse? We're supposed to get just a quick binges. I've been on my Netflix and chill shit. So Battle Camp, I watched some of that. I don't know if you guys saw that. That brings together all of the, not all of, but a lot of the reality stars from the shows that have been out, like The Mole and stuff like that. And it's another one of those shows, competition shows, reality joints. So I've been watching that. And then last night I watched, it's only 8 episodes, but it's been on the front when you open up Netflix for like a week now. The 4 seasons. I watched 6 of 8, or I'm lying. I watched 5 of 8 last night. It's got Steve Carell in it. It's got our girl that played Sarah Palin on Saturday Night Live.
Tina Fey.
Why can't I? Tina Fey. And it's pretty good. It is pretty good. I'm 5 episodes
What
in.
is
There's
it?
3. Huh?
What's the name of that shit?
The 4 seasons.
Okay, I missed
The
that.
4. Yeah, the 4 seasons. Steve Carell is basically, I guess he's kind of the main character, but it's a relationship type movie. You know what I mean? You see,
Yeah,
he's
I like that
he's
dude.
he's divorcing his wife, and they're like this friend group of individuals, and they're kind of just dealing with it. It's good though. It's good, and it hits. There's some shit that hits home,
And
man.
that's
Like,
a series or a movie?
it's a series. It's eight
Okay.
episodes, but it looks like it probably was supposed to be a movie because the episodes are fairly short, and they probably just were like, "Yo, we can't find what to cut out to make this thing 2 hours or 2.5 hours, so let's just make it a series." But it's pretty good, man. Those are the 2 things I've been watching. I'm gonna finish 4 seasons today, no doubt. There's only 3 episodes of that left, and then I'm gonna go on to Cheat, which is another one that looks like it's interesting on Netflix.
Yeah. For me, regular stuff. Last of Us, episode 4 tonight. Righteous Gemstone still on that. I think the finale might be tonight or maybe next week. I'm not sure, but that's wrapping up for the series finale.
Now I can watch it.
Yeah, and then the other 2 things. I mean, you can get through Gemstones fast because it's only a 30-minute show. Even though it's 4 seasons, the episode's only 30 minutes, or really like 24 minutes. But
you should have told me that a long time ago.
Yeah. But the other show is Black Mirror. I had been seeing it in the top 10, but I just thought like, oh, maybe people are watching Black Mirror. That's why it's in the top 10 again. I didn't realize that it came back with a new season. So started off the new season on that. I've watched 4 episodes so far. I think it's 7 episodes in this series. Yeah,
But Black Mirror is one of those things that you don't have to watch previous seasons to watch, right?
You can watch it pretty much any order because the show isn't really connected. They drop Easter eggs from other shows where like you might see a poster that relates to something from another episode, but it doesn't have anything to do with the episode. Yeah. So it's just them dropping like their own little, in universal things in the show. The only thing I will say for this episode, I do know that there's an episode from season 4, I want to say, that's called USS Callister. They have an episode in this current season that's like a continuation of that, like a part 2 to that episode. So I would say that's the only one that you would need to watch in order, just because it's a continuation. But I haven't watched it yet, but I know that it exists from what I've read online. But I've been watching that. Man, if it's been in the top 10 on Netflix, and if a lot of people, especially in America, watched episode 1 of Black Mirror, I think your boy Luigi might get off because they do a healthcare kind of episode. That shit is heart-wrenching, yo. I mean, it's one of those. Black Mirror does some good things and makes you feel like, wow, it makes you think. Man, this one was just like tearjerker, like just it was. Yeah, that I don't want to give too much away. That
one
shit,
day we gotta get back to Luigi, man.
Yeah, I feel like if a lot of people watch that shit, if they end up on a jury, Luigi's going free. Like,
one day we got to get back to Luigi, man.
Yes, but
I got some thoughts about that.
Yeah, so that, and then the other thing is, I kind of talked about it in early in the episode before EJ joined, was Survivor. Didn't realize it was back on TV, so we've been kind of binging that because we're like 10 episodes behind. So
who are you saying thank you to? It definitely was a female.
Huh?
EJ.
Oh.
I know body language. I know that wasn't like the good look. Thanks.
Yeah.
That was I'm gonna watch you pour. I'm gonna try to get the eye contact real quick. And I'm gonna give you the nice thank you so you feel appreciated even though you're having a hard day at work. I know that. That's my old move. That is my old move. You ain't slick.
Oh man. But yeah, got back on that Survivor, and so that's pretty much it for me.
Shut your mouth.
Only thing left
Your
now is to
mouth.
give a nice tip,
I
and
ain't
then
got it.
he'll be back next week. I'm telling you, man, the weather's changing.
Listen,
Ooh.
I know you would love to watch me live free and wild and live vicariously through you. The days are gone, man. You know, lock down, man. Lock down, good
Uh,
brother.
um, what's today's date? May 4th. Hey, you need to talk.
I don't even wish that on you, man. You good?
Hey, I need you to hit up John them and see if they're trying to do the Wu-Tang concert up there. I might have to just cop a quick ticket and ride out.
Yeah, man. Nobody's been talking about buying it. Oh, shit,
Uh,
that's the first show on the leg on the tour. We need to do it.
and it's the last one. It's the last group show. So it's either up there. I'm gonna do it on the 6th, or I'm gonna talk to E and see if he want to do it here on the 10th next month.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody. I mean, everybody I know has been talking about it. The price is a little high for this that the arena versus in smaller venues where it's been cheaper. But it's a sea of G's, a little high. Um, yeah, I think I want to go. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Mm, we gonna figure it out. We gonna figure it out. All right. Well, EJ, you told us what you were watching. VP's watching a bunch of bullshit as usual. All right, man. Well, 2 o'clock. It's a good time. I'm gonna go watch some baseball and do some stuff. Got some stuff
Hey,
I gotta do.
shout out to the Mets, man. Mets are on fire right now.
Mets are in first place.
I
Mets
mean, not
are in
only are
first
they in
place.
first place, they're kicking ass. I mean, I reserve all hope because you got to see them do this until October, but they're kicking ass right now. They beat the shit
Yeah,
out.
and they're up 2-1 right now against St. Louis.
Yeah, they beat the shit out of people.
We'll
The
see.
Marlins not too far behind.
All right, all
They're only in last place, but
Right.
it's okay. Mets are 22-11. I think they got the best record. Nope, Dodgers 23-10, best record in the league. Cubs are doing well, 21-13, and then the Yankees lead in their division 19-14, and the Tigers surprisingly are leading their division, that's a good one.
That's
Cleveland, Kansas City, and so on.
not surprising. Their division is always up. But
Yeah,
the thing about the AL East, the Orioles are still, pretty good. I mean, I watched the game where the Yankees completely struggled against them. I'm just hoping for a Subway Series. That's how I
it's
want
still
this
early,
all
and
World
there's still
Series.
130 games left, so there is definitely room for the Mets to collapse.
For sure. That's the thing I'm waiting on. Okay, y'all kicking ass now, and Dora gets hurt. This whole shit falls apart.
I think Memorial Day weekend is the first Subway Series this year, so
That'll be lit. But if
yeah.
they have a World Series, Subway Series, we gotta go. We gotta buy tickets. We just gotta go.
You don't want to buy Wu-Tang tickets. You want to buy you know how much them tickets gonna be if it's a Subway Series?
That's what
Shit.
that's what we just gotta be there. We just gotta be outside the stadium.
Where's
Yeah,
the
I was
hell
just about
VP?
to say that Subway Series, you're gonna need to be like a hedge fund manager to get tickets there.
Bill Maher, I'm gonna write Bill Maher to see if I can get some tickets.
All right. Well, VP, if you want to do your due diligence and get us up out of here.
Hey everybody, we definitely appreciate you guys for rocking with us on this week's episode of the Worthy Podcast. So for the folks who joined live in the audience, we definitely appreciate you guys taking some time out of your Sunday morning /afternoon to rock with us. For the folks who listen on the episode post, we appreciate you taking that time as well. Like we always say, make that phone call, send that text message, reach out to your people, let them know you're thinking about them. You never know what's going on in people's head. So, let them know. With that being said, you can find the podcast on all podcasting platforms by searching at Casworthy. You can also follow us on any of our social media by searching at Casworthy. On Instagram, it's at Casworthy_podcast. While you're there, you can leave a like, subscribe, follow, tell a friend, help us grow the audience. We very much appreciate it.
DJ Face,
And
that is a female server.
Yeah. With that being said, we will see you guys on the next episode of the Casworthy podcast. Until then, we out. We love you. May the 4th be with you, and we'll see you next time.